Ollie and Steven's 2013-14 NBA Preview Show. Number 22.
Hi, hello, welcome back to Ollie and Steven's 2013-2014 NBA Preview Show. I have been waiting to discuss this one for some time. The most dysfunctional franchise in the NBA. It's hysterical to discuss, it's hysterical to watch. We're talking about you, Sacramento, those there Kings who have handed the reins of their franchise to a man who is known as DeMarcus Cousins. Good for you, Sacramento. Stephen Edwards, 23, 22 even.
Yeah, 22, the Sacramento Kings. So they're under new ownership. They're talking about the future of the franchise. Shaq's on board. These potentially could be exciting times for the Sacramento Kings. But then you've got your situation that your star player is an absolute head case, and you just begin to wonder if they can ever straighten this guy out. I mean, on a good night, this guy is a 2010 guy and can be dominant, but you have to wonder about what else he brings to the court and as well as off it.
Look, I love DeMarcus Cousins. I think he's very fun. Like you said, he's a head case. That's a kind word, but I do love him. I think he's hysterical. I like the new owner with the first ever American Indian owner in the NBA. Now they have all these crazy imports of Indian businesses that are apparently pouring money all over this NBA franchise. That's only can be good for them for building a new stadium, building a new arena that's, I imagine, going to be swanky. And then they bring in Shaq, like you said. That's a good move. We discussed this before.
Yeah, it's a good PR move. And this year I think will be when we'll find out if DeMarcus Cousins is going to take this franchise forward, or is it going to be a case of they'll sever ties and just let him go and then move along in a completely different direction. I mean, I've been trumping at times maybe the Bulls trying to get hold of DeMarcus Cousins and play him up the power forward position. So I think he can play that position. And I think...
he can't play defense. So it's
nor
an
can
issue.
Carlos Boozer.
It's true. All right, let's check out what we think the collective mindset of this fan base is. God knows, after the Maloof era, they now have the new Indian owner in charge. A bit of an upheaval in roster this season. What word would you give for the Sacramento fans?
Excited.
I'm going to go with a saying of good Lord, because I imagine they were like new owner. They had the Maloofs, they had Tyreke Evans and Cousins, and everyone hated each other. It was dysfunctional. They had a poor coach who didn't deserve to be there. They had a poor GM. Now they have new owner, new GM, new coach. They've let go of Tyreke Evans. They brought in some pieces. I think the best player in last year's draft. So they must just be like, oh my God, what has happened here? They probably can't really understand or fathom what's going to happen this season. I think no one really knows what's going to happen with this team, and I feel like they know that as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think, but as much as I think they don't know what's going to happen to the franchise, I think getting rid of Tyreke Evans for me was a good move. I often felt that Evans was one of the guys that was overrated in the league. So I think that if they got a nice trade where they've managed to move that guy along, so I think I'd be perfectly happy with that. I don't think Kings fans are going to miss him. It's all about moving on now, and I think any time you bring in a new general manager, new coach, new this, new that, I think it's going to be an upheaval. But once that all settles down, I think you've got to be excited about it. If Shaq comes in as part of this and really wants to, help move this franchise forward, and DeMarcus Cousins finally matures, then you've got to be excited. I think you've got to at least give it the benefit of the doubt.
Okay, let's check out what the Sacramento Kings did this offseason. They brought in Ben McLemore, who slid in the draft with some off-the-court concerns. Carl Landry that came in as well. Mba Mtue came in. Grievous Vasquez. The best, for me, pound for pound, the best contract in the league, by the way, Grievous Vasquez. It's an exceptional contract that the Kings have got for that one. New GM, new coach, who said they let Tyreke Evans go, and the Maloofs, or as I like to call them, the Buffoon family, have gone as well. So it's been a good off-season for the Kings.
It has been a good off-season for the Kings. I think the one thing I would worry about with Vasquez is that he takes too many long-distance shots. I think he needs to become a shooter that doesn't put up those three-point shots as much as he does, and look to distribute the basketball in line with around 10 assists per game. So, I think it's going to be interesting with this one because obviously Thomas didn't do too badly last season. I mean, he actually shot better from the field than Vasquez did and actually put up better production. So I'm just wondering how exactly these two are going to fit into that point guard position.
Yeah, I don't know who you start. I imagine they start with Isaiah Thomas, but I think they're going to split a lot of the time. I think that maybe it's time to go to the pair of them in there as well. The Ben McLemore thing is really interesting for me. I think he was the most talented and most likely to be an all-star in this draft, and he slid, and he couldn't have gone to a worse destination. This guy needed some leadership help. He just needed someone to hang around with him for a couple of years, become a real close friend with him on and off the court. That is not going to happen in Sacramento.
No, again, you put a young player in a situation like this where it's been all changed, and then you've got your franchise player that's not exactly the best role model on the team. Yeah, I think this could be a bit interesting to see how Ben McLemore adjusts his situation, and I think the best thing that could happen to the Kings is for DeMarcus Cousins to finally show some maturity.
Let's look at their rotation then. So they're probably going to go with Thomas, would you say, at the point?
Yes.
Will McLemore start as a rookie, do you think?
I think so. I think you have to start him as a rookie. Marcus Thornton, I think, for me, will be much better off coming off the bench in limited action.
Yeah, I agree. And then Landry, Peterson, who can step away from the basket and drop a three at the power forward, and Cousins. Seems like a small lineup, but when you have DeMarcus Cousins, who on his day, if his head's right, can be as destructive as possible, both ends of the floor in terms of rebounding, not too much in defending the big guys, they can probably get away with that smaller lineup.
Yeah, I mean, you say that. I mean, like, obviously Jason Thompson is quite a big body in there, and he's asked to pick up some of the rebounding work, but DeMarcus Cousins in general does take ownership of that. I think a nice pickup in obviously Carl Landry coming over. I think he can provide some offense for them. He obviously with the Golden State Warriors last season. So, yeah, I mean, it could be interesting just to see how some of these guys go. I mean, I think that you've got a question mark definitely shooting guard. I think there is a case that maybe at times they may very well go with Vasquez and Thomas in the backcourt together. Because I think although Ben McLemore may very well start, I don't think you can look at true starters minutes. No. I think it is going to be pretty much that he's going to come in and maybe play like 20 to 25 minutes to start off with, and then see how Thornton comes off the bench. And then maybe if Thornton can't handle coming off the bench, then maybe you might swap around and say Thornton to start off with, and then bring Macklem off the bench. I think that's always one thing to be a bit wary of when you're looking at splitting guys at positions, is that some guys, for whatever reason, can't get into the mentality of coming off the bench. They just perform better starting. And I don't think at times it really matters who starts games. You know, as long as you've got the key guys out there at the right moments when you're trying to finish the game, then that's much more important.
Yeah, what is their crunch time lineup for you? It's a really difficult one for me to think about. I can't have McLemore in there in crunch time. He's not a good enough defender. None of them are true defenders. And that's a question that I want Coach Marv. I'm actually asking you now, Coach Marv. When you look at this roster, this lineup, not just in crunch time, how much zone should they play? Because I think there's a lot of appalling defenders in there. They're going to have to just stick Cousins under the basket at times as a rim protector and play pure zone, because McLemore's going to get taken out of the game. I don't think Thomas can defend his position against some of the guys in the league. There's some serious questions there on defense. Crunch time lineup for you then, Steven?
I think if it was me in crunch time, I would probably start Vasquez and Thomas in the backcourt. I think they're the two that I would try and finish the game with. I think moving on from that, you're probably going to go with Mbara Mute is another guy you potentially want out there. I'd take Jason Thompson as one of the guys to go along with DeMarcus Cousins. That's probably how I would try and finish it. I think you should then have enough offense with Cousins and the two guys in the backcourt. Because I think Mbara Mute, I think you're going to want him out there from a defensive point of view, and to give you a bit of help on the rebounding, and then hopefully Jason Thompson will try and give you any sort of clean-up duty around the basket as well if DeMarcus Cousins being taken care of. So that's how I would go. I agree with you. I'm not so sure I trust Ben McLemore. And the only other guy is potentially Marcus Thornton. You could put out there in another situation, depending on injuries or how guys are shooting on a particular night. I think the one thing that I think you definitely want to move away from is a guy like John Salmons, who really hasn't been the same guy as he was in that short stint in Chicago and when he was in Milwaukee at times. Even though as a Bulls fan, I wasn't a particular fan of Salmons, but they're the five I would go with.
And Muti might be one of the best paid, reckless, destructive, headless, brainless people in the NBA. I feel like at times he doesn't know what he's doing or the game he's playing, but at times he can be effective by just having a strength body and rebounding the basketball. Like, I don't really think he knows what he's doing, but it's just the physique.
Yeah, I mean, at crunch time, sometimes you need that guy who's going to come up with that rebound and do that kind of work, and also be able to put down some good defense. And I think for me, if I'm comfortable enough that I've got enough offense out there with Vasquez, with Thomas and Cousins, I think I can afford to think to myself, well, hang on a minute, then I want Mbamute there at the small forward position, and get him to be the guy who guards the best wing player on the opposition's team.
Okay, let's go to Jedi Ollie. I think he's got some strong thoughts on the Sacramento Kings.
Jedi Ollie.
Okay, I think this Sacramento Kings team is a recipe for disaster. I really do. I look through the lineup. I see Thomas and Vasquez, whoever you want to play there, McLemore, Landry and Peterson, all of which want to shoot threes and stand out on the perimeter and shoot threes. Then you have Cousins stranded up there up top in the low block. He can't defend the basketball. It's a lot of guys who are individually good players you take on your team. Together, it looks pretty atrocious for me. The spacing issues, all kinds of locker room issues. I mean, again, this is DeMarcus Cousins' team. That is a scary thought. These guys could absolutely fall off a cliff. That's my prediction. These guys are going to be so much worse than we think they could be. It's gonna be quite atrocious at time. And I also think they're gonna try and make a big trade. They got a new owner in there. Some people have mentioned Rajon Rondo coming to the Sacramento Kings. That could be on the table. They're gonna try and do something. It's not gonna be good enough. This team's all over the place to me.
Yeah, I agree. I think actually the Kings will try and make a move to show a statement of intent. I mean, obviously we've had a lot of upheaval over the Kings franchise, with them potentially moving even away from Sacramento, and I think with the new ownership in there and everything else like that, they are going to try and make that move to see if they, just to say to the fans, look, this team's here to stay, and this is the intent that we're going to have with this team. I think it's very much a make or break year for Cousins, because I think if he screws up this year, that's it. He's gone. There is. I don't think the.
They've handed him a new deal though. It's handed a new 4-year deal, which I like because they got him on the cheap. And then they can also trade him away because someone will think they can handle him. So it's a good deal for them. It's tradable, and they can get something back. I think a good idea for them, and this is maybe too sensible for the Kings. Pau Gasol is probably on the trade block this year. Expiring contract, a bit of leadership, can also play some defense, could pair him with Cousins, play him at the power forward spot. I think I like that move for them. I think it's too sensible. I think that Powell wouldn't like it, so I don't want to upset Powell.
I'm not convinced that Powell would necessarily like it. And the other thing, although the thing is, he doesn't always see eye to eye with Kobe, but I'm sure he appreciates the fact that Kobe's a winner and will continue to try and drive that Lakers franchise. But I think I agree with you with Cousins, and that's why I said I think it's make or break year for him, because although they have given him that new deal, it's a tradable commodity. The only thing, again, I think from a Sacramento point of view, that they'll find it hard when they do try and deal him. They'll never get equal value, because teams will always lowball Cousins due to his mental problems, and I think that's what puts teams off of him. But there will always be a team out there, and this happens in all sports, that whenever you get a troubled guy, there's always somebody who thinks that they've got the solution to everything. I remembered John Lucas when he was the San Antonio Spurs coach, when they brought in Dennis Rodman to pair up with David Robinson, that Lucas thought he had the answers to Dennis Rodman and tried to pair him with the squeakiest, cleanest guy in the NBA at the time, and it didn't work. They jokingly called him the odd couple, and it just didn't work. But again, that's exactly the same with DeMarcus Cousins. There'll be a guy out there who's a guru and says he understands players and things like that. I think, yeah, I can straighten out DeMarcus Cousins. No, you can't.
You know who would do that? Phil Jackson, if he comes back to the Lakers.
Would it be such a bad thing if DeMarcus Cousins ends up in the Lakers?
Let's go straight power for... Actually, I'd quite like Powell. Imagine Powell, Cousins and Kobe. They would be fearful in the Western Conference if they can pull off. I don't think they could keep Powell there in that trade. There's a thought, though. Jim Buss should actually hire me. I feel like I know more about basketball moves than Jim Buss. So think about that. I think that Phil's got that sort of personality that he would feel like he could see the potential in DeMarcus Cousins. Let's get then to Steven's 24-second shot prediction clock. Stephen Edwards, you know the rules. New listeners will not know the rules by now, but they should have listened to the last ones. You can't just start at this level now. We're into the decent teams. As soon as you begin, the clock will start.
All right, 2013-2014 Sacramento Kings. DeMarcus Cousins will show that he can lead this franchise. Yes, I kid you not. This guy is going to prove in his make or break year that he will lead the Sacramento Kings. Mike Malone will show what an excellent coach he can be. I think it's a great move for the Kings bringing this guy in. The guy is the best assistant coach around the league. And Cole Landry could prove to be a nice addition after the injury and will give them a much needed help off the bench.
Malone was the defensive assistant is that correct, in Golden State? Is that right?
I think it was, it was Golden State.
Yeah, I'm sure he was. I like that hire as well. Everyone was raving about him in the off-season, I remember.
Yeah, I mean, he was. But yeah, they did a survey of the other coach, the league's general managers, and they regarded Mike Malone as being one of the elite assistant coaches around the league. So he's got his job now, and I think it's a good move. Again, it's all part of this rebuilding process in Sacramento. So yeah, I'm definitely on board with this one.
Forget the Tyreek Evans, DeMarcus Cousins era. I think he's going to average 21 and 12 this year. I think DeMarcus Cousins is primed for a big year. I really do.
Yeah, and as I say, for me, this is the year he'll lead the franchise.
All right, then let's go to Destination City, Mr. Edwards.
Destination City.
Sacramento. Edwards, this is an interesting one.
I think, had you asked me this maybe 6-12 months ago, I'd no interest.
I think I still have no interest.
No, I don't, because I think I'm always intrigued about guys, DeMarcus Cousins. I mean, I was a Dennis Rodman fan, so I'm always a bit intrigued about guys that are a little bit different, and I'm not saying DeMarcus Cousins anywhere near a Dennis Rodman. I'd go and watch the Sacramento Kings because I think they're a franchise that's trying to be ahead of the game now, and I can see them making a move that will lift that franchise further, and as I say, statement of intent. So for me, Sacramento, not as much as Toronto. I'll give them a 6.
See, Sacramento's in California. I feel like I could party with DeMarcus, which would maybe get a bit weird, a bit freaky. I don't know exactly what would happen. But if I'm in that sort of area, I'm probably going to go to LA, which is probably what that franchise is thinking right now. Like, can we find a way of getting to LA? So I'm going to give it a 4. There's just something about it that, I know it's Cali and everything, I just don't know. It doesn't appeal to me as much as it should do. I'm giving you a big 4, Sacramento, but DeMarcus can come on the flight with me to LA because I think something would happen.
Yeah, I think that would be quite an interesting plane ride, to be completely fair.
This is another team with an over or under of 4 incriminating Instagram pictures of parties from them this season. There's no leadership, man. This is going to get crazy. That locker room will be wild. God knows what Ben McLemore's going to do this season. There may well be an over-under on DUIs for Ben McLemore this year, but I really like him. and I think he is the most talented guy at the last draft, and he could just shoot lights out this season, because he's another guy who shot those NBA threes in college, so I like his chances. He's not in a great setup, so hopefully someone could pull him aside and just say, look, this isn't your teammates for the next 4 or 5 years, so don't worry about it, just look after yourself, which I think there's going to be a lot of self-preservation going on in the Sacramento franchise this year, which does not bode well for success in the core. I think they drop off a cliff.
I hope not. I hope this is the start of a new era for Kings fans, because they've been through a hell of a lot in recent times.
Okay, that does it for number 22 on Mr. Edwards' Power Rankings. Number 21 coming next, which is a brand new rebranded team. Teaser.
Thanks for downloading Ollie and Steven's 2013-14 NBA preview show. Please continue to check out the First Take UK podcast.